For centuries, man has struggled to achieve both dominance and peace. It is a human nature. Take, for example, the questions: can empires be expanded without a cost? Or can man exist in harmony with others? The answer to this question seems quite difficult to determine. Peace. It's humanity's eternal elusive dream, right? It's a commonly debated topic amongst today's society, and the questions that arise from it are: will it ever be attained? When? And is it even possible? The questions have raised the minds of everyone with a variety of opinions, with political status, culture, and religion all affecting the people's beliefs. And of course, I would say the perspective, or rather their surroundings. Everyone has different thoughts, and no one really knows what will happen in the future, and what is our fate as human beings. Now, many people wish for world peace, but how often does this wish get answered? And just who is willing to answer such a wish? Today, the UN and other political leaders are working and trying to secure this wish, so that someday, just maybe someday, we will live in a world without war or violence. Now, many ask the question: is world peace an impossible dream? And let me just first say that it seems like a long time to talk about world peace, with reports of war filling the air every day in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Syria. If these wars have been going on for many years, nothing has been done to start them, and they also just seem to be progressing to the worst. Now, peace, what is it, and what is the true meaning of it? Peace itself is little more than just a word, and also a theory. It begins to take hold in the mind of the individual, until the commitment is actually made by someone. In fact, peace on earth can only be manifested when inner peace is practiced on a large scale. So it all starts with inner peace. But just how is it possible to practice inner peace with all the suffering and all the surroundings in the world? Take, for example, if you would confront someone who has experienced war, who has experienced massive injustice or massive suffering. If you just even mention the word peace around in front of them, they'll see it as nothing but complete nonsense. And is it surprising? As a great man once said, I can only hate war as a soldier can. I can only hate war as someone who's seen its brutality and its stupidity can. Now, I remember once I came across a legend. It was about a king who offered a prize for the artist in town who would portray the best picture of inner peace. Now, many artists tried and submitted their works, and out of them, there were only two which stood out, and only two which the king really liked. Now, the first one, it was a picture of a calm lake, perfectly mirroring the mountains above it, and overhead was a blue sky with clouds. Now, for all who saw it, and all the citizens, it was truly the best picture out of all of them, and it truly represented for them inner peace. As for the second picture, it also had mountains, but they were rugged, bare. It also had sky, but it was storm and lightning. And at the center of the picture, if you would look closely, there was a bright light. And there was a nest. And there, a mother bird had built her nest. In the midst of the angry storm and the water stream, the mother bird sat, calm and peaceful. Now, which picture would you have chosen? The king chose the second picture. Do you know why? The king explained, inner peace does not mean to be in a place where there is no noise or no trouble, but the true meaning of inner peace is to be in the midst of all things and still be calm in your heart, living in inner peace and its concept, and just knowing that someday it will be achieved. It is this practice of inner peace within which makes us realize that we are connected to the world around us, to all living human beings, and all nature. Now, for me, peace, when I think about peace, like, what is it? Peace for me means seeing all our humanity as our brothers and sisters. And it means honoring other people's development as well as our own. And of course, it means building a future for the next generation so that they will know life in its fullness and peace in its entirety. But for example, if you would talk about peace and describe it as the complete absence of conflict between and within nations, then it may as well be impossible. There's a rising population, and which means there will be rising demand for jobs, opportunities, land, water, resources of all kinds, for economical and also political power. And just to imagine the complete absence of violence and conflict around the world, it seems like complete nonsense, doesn't it? But if by world peace it is meant the absence of major war as effective containment of regional places, then it may as well be impossible. Now, the next step after this is like knowing the peace is attained, practicing inner peace. It takes a long time, not easy, I agree with that. The next step would be taking action. And the next thing is this, the most important thing is motivation in this case. Now, when I start thinking about it, the first thing which comes to my mind is, the question, and which never leaves me, which is, how do we deal with violence without using force in return? Take, for example, on the streets of Syria nowadays. If you're facing tanks, armed men, are aiming at you, threatening your life, what is the most effective thing to do in such a situation? Would you fight back? Would you give in? Or would you use more force? Now, many people rely on violent tactics to solve problems and see it as the only way to stop war. Even though, in fact, it just creates wars and it just creates a vicious cycle. Violence will never be good. Two wrongs do not make right. But for some people, sometimes violence is very much justified. Take, for example, what would you do if someone started punching your loved one, for example? Would you just stand at the corner and watch your loved one die? Or would you attack the terrorist? That's not a matter of debate. You would immediately attack the terrorist spontaneously. We would not want our loved one to die, right? But that's what I mean. In some cases, like extreme cases which seem to have no way out, using violence is very justified. But for some people, if you would believe, it is never justified. And it is better for them to die knowing that they have refrained from violence than to live knowing that they had hurt or killed someone. Now, I see a rather simple, but at the same time, a very complicated way, which takes a long time, of how to end violence, which is fighting violence with non-violence. You might ask, how is it even possible to fight violence with non-violence? If you would fight violence with violence, it would just create a vicious cycle, right? But non-violence, it is a strategy and a philosophy. It rejects the use of physical violence. It embodies respect and even loves for one opponent. Now, you still might say it's still impossible. Well, let me just tell you that it can be possible, and it is. Take, for example, Nelson Mandela. He went at first to jail believing in complete violence, and after 27 years of dedication, effort, and hard work, he and his colleagues together have developed and harnessed the amazing skills, the skills which require them to turn one of the most vicious governments ever known to man into democracy. And it was done with complete devotion with non-violence. Not only this, take for example the famous Indian independence movement led by the famous pacifist Mahatma Gandhi. It was completely based on non-violence, and not a single bullet was fired, and it was completely successful. Not only this, have you ever wondered why so many dictatorships have collapsed in the last years? Took place in Estonia, Latvia, Czechoslovakia, East Germany. I can keep going on. In Egypt, they have also collapsed successfully because of the tactics which were used against them. Now, to me, peace and prosperity can be achieved through the realization of 5 fundamental freedoms. And these freedoms are freedom of speech, freedom from want, freedom from religion, freedom for the environment, and last but not least, freedom from fear. Now, of course, you might say that other rights are important as well, and I totally agree, but I think of them as kind of a framework through which other rights can flourish. Now, take a look at your hand for a moment. We all have 5 fingers. The first one, we call a thumb. In appearance, it stands out. It is strong. It represents the idea that stands out, and that is strong. It represents freedom of speech, the idea that stands out, that is honesty and corruption. Second, for us, it is index finger. We point with this finger. It gives us direction. It represents freedom of religion. Every one of us, it chooses to free our own direction, with or without God. And if we choose that God to be our direction, then so be it. In fact, the state should not interfere with such things. Interference of the state will only pollute the relationship with God. Thirdly, for us, it is the longest of all fingers, the middle finger. It represents freedom from want. It is the long road of existence. It represents the assurance that there will be food, water, shelter, healthcare, education for all people around the world, no matter who you are and no matter where you are. Now, fourthly, it is the index marriage finger, which is a direct relationship to our nervous system. It represents freedom from the environment. We are all related to our environment and the earth which we live in. If life on earth is spoiled, our life is spoiled as well. And last for us, it is the small finger. It is the final of our hand. All the things I've mentioned and all the freedoms after accomplished will lead to this. It is a product of our work. And if you take a moment and recount these 5 freedoms and look at your hand, just remember that you didn't ask for this hand, you were born with it. The same should be for all these 5 fundamental freedoms. I believe that people are not supposed to ask for them and fight for them. Everyone's supposed to be born with them.